Okay, people. So, Extraction 2. Yes, that has just dropped. It is again directed by Sam Hargrave and written by Joe Russo. The film is then produced by, well, Sam Hargreaves, Chris Hemsworth, Eric Gitter. We got Mike LaRocca, Patrick Newell, Anthony and Joe Russo, Angela Russo Otsot, and Peter Sherwin. It is co-produced by Matthew Stillman, Anthony J. Voorhees, Michael Salvin, David Minkowaski, Shelby Malone, and Ari Costa. It's executive produced by Jake Ulst, Benjamin Grayson, Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely, and Stephen V. Scavelli. It is associate produced by Murtaza Kafawala. Yep, that's it. Okay, music is Alex Beecher and Henry Jackman. Greg Bowdy on cinematography. William Hoy and Alex Rodriguez edited the piece. Casting, we've got Sarah Finn, Christo Huzar, Tekla Javaka Kadid, Maya Kaventi, and Eka Mozahavadaz. Philip Ivey is on production design. Art direction is Carlo Crescini, Tony Drew, Pavel Kejesi, Kumar Rahul, Dan Sharapa, Martina Ter Akapawa, and Matt Wyan. Costume design got Jennifer Lander and Rebecca Johnston. And our cast, well, people, back is Chris Hemsworth as Tyler Rake. We've got Golshifteh Farahani as Nick Khan, and her brother Yaz Khan is played by Adam Bessa. They're both back. Now, new, we have got oh yes, I probably should mention, if I know who plays her. Yes, Mia, who's played by Olga Kolenko, because it all revolves around her sister, Ketivan Radini, played by Tinatin Dalashgivi. She's got a son, Sandro, played by Adro Japadiaz, and a daughter, Nina, who is played by Miriami Kovashvili and Marta Kovashvili. But she's young, so, youngsters, they can only act for so many hours, right? So that makes sense. Now, her husband is David, who is played by Giga Shavadaz as a 9-year-old, and the grown-up version is played by Tomik Bezavi. His brother Zurab is played by Tomik Gogaranchani, and his 12-year-old self is played by Dmitry Kavalashvili. Then there is Avtandil, played by Dato Bakadaz. His 20-year-old self is played by David Kogavadadaz. There's Konstantin, played by Daniel Bernhardt. Ivani, played by Erkil Kriladaz. Former MMA star Megan Anderson has a role in the piece, and so does Idris Elba, who shows up briefly. Yeah, there's other people involved, but I mean, there's so many mercs and everything. I mean, I could go on for days. And also, I cannot pronounce these names, people. I mean, gotta be honest about that. I am butchering the fuck out of all of this. So instead of embarrassing myself even more, I'm gonna say, let's go on to what this film is about, shall we? Okay, so after barely surviving his grievous wounds from his mission in Dhaka, Bangladesh, Tyler Rake is back and his team is ready to take on their next mission. So, yeah. Now, we looked at Extraction, right? Back in 2020. It was episode 87. 87 of the podcast, people. I mean, this is episode 260. So, boy, a lot has happened in between. But that film, that was there during lockdown. That was a great distraction. And I enjoyed the fuck out of it. Right? One thing I did not know, I did not know that both films are adaptations of Ande Parks' graphic novel Ciudad. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I might have to try and look into that. So I'm imagining it's either real big or there's volumes, you know what I mean? But yeah, Extraction 2. I mean, when the first one ended, you knew he wasn't dead, right? Because if you remember at the beginning of Extraction 1, there's a bit where he jumps off the big cliff into the water and then is like sitting on the bottom of the lake, like doing breathing exercises. So when he went in, I knew that, look, you don't show things like that unless they impact the story somehow. So I knew, however it happened, he was going to survive. You know what I mean? So we see all of that, right? We see what happens because he's he's in a hospital bed, all tubed up. Then we see all of these events, which a little confusing because we see a lot of soldiers pulling him out of the water. And I'm just like, wait, what soldiers are these? Why would they? And then they fly him to the UAE. And again, it's just like, but the Khans come, look after him. It looks like he's in a coma for ages, and then he wakes up. Now, the opening bit of this film did remind me of the last of Nolan's Batman films. What was it? It was like The Dark Knight Rises Again or something. The one with Bane, right? Because Bane breaks his back. Breaks Batman's back. And he's just in a prison cell even, doing press-ups and chin-ups. Menzies broken back. Like, who the funk it, right? Like, well, that's all you have to do. Now, this film has its own just ridiculous, because he then gets approached by Elba's character, right, to do this mission, because the Khans drop him off in Austria in this cabin, and they're like, yo, when you have something to live for, let us know, right? And so Elba's like, oh, you've got 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks. Who knows how that number came about? But we then see him, because at this point his arms in a sling. You know what I mean? Arms in a sling. We have no clue what the severity is, but the arms in a fucking sling, right? So now he's doing press ups, sit ups, chopping wood, does all of this kind of stuff, pulling a sledge, sleigh, whatever you call it. You know what I mean? Just doing all of these things. And it's just like, nah, you ain't getting back to top fitness in 6 weeks after being in a coma for ages, right? You've got muscle deterioration, just your joints have all seized up. It's just not happening. It's not happening. It is some crazy ass shit. So that goes down. Now, the big thing is, but you remember, like, it's extraction, right? So they're extracting people. And the first one, I think, look, I rewatched it because I could not remember what the fuck happened, to be honest. And with this, with that one, he saves the boy, the gangster son kidnapped, and everything that happens, you can be like, all right, yeah, I see that. I can see that, right? The double cross and all of those kind of things. You'd be like, man, that makes sense, you know? So it's just like, okay, what's the hook? And the initial part of the story, you can be like, okay, I get it. I mean, I didn't know that was a thing, and listen, this is a story, but I'm kind of imagining that this is something that has happened, maybe, or does happen, you know? But it does seem a crazy fucking thing, right? I've heard of conjugal visits, but this takes the biscuit, right? And it's funny that Elba's in it, because there is that part of Fallen Sun, which is a little similar, and it was ridiculous in Fallen Sun, and it's ridiculous in this, because it's just, there's so many people, man. There's so many people. You're just like, yo, nah, you ain't getting out. You ain't getting out like that. You feel? You know what I mean? The thing I did like about this film is that the Khans have more of a role, right? They had more of a role, and like, they're in they do some stuff in the first one, but it's not a lot, and it's at the very end that Nick, she comes and she's fire, and then Yaz is in a helicopter. But this one, they're basically throughout the film, they're there doing their thing. So that was good. That was good. Flesh out the characters a little bit. Though, I will say, there is a big thing that happens, and you can see it happen. You understand, oh yeah, something's happening to that person. You can see it from the giddy up. Just from the giddy up, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's the person that's gonna, you know. So there is that. Listen, if you love explosion, there's a lot of explosions, people. There's a lot of explosions, there's car chases, all of this kind of thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, that's okay, right? This film is just over 2 hours, and I did feel that there's a lot of places it did kind of seem to drag a bit. And there was just these scenarios, right? It seemed that these top extraction experts seemed that they're being mad sloppy, right? So fucking sloppy. It's crazy, right? The bit on the plane, people, you know, it's just like you're not leaving with the kid and just and then there's there's the bit when they're standing when Rake and Sandro are standing on the balcony, and Sandro tells him something, and literally at that moment the helicopter arrives. You're just like, shut up. No, 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 no. Come on now. Oh, as soon as he said that's when no, 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 no. Not buying it. Not buying it, people. And that bit is weird as well, because we get this conversation, right? This big conversation. I don't even know why Rake would start off with the way he started off. It's a fucking kid. See, kids don't, they're not gonna get nuance and the whole regret and the tortured soul. They're not. No, no. But the kid says one thing, right? Which seems very pointless for then what happens afterwards. And it's just like, when you've seen so much, you were there, you witnessed everything. The things that happen, it's hard to it's hard to jump on board with them, and that's knowing how fucking stupid kids can be, right? That's knowing all of that. There's a level of ridiculous with this film that is a bit much, right? The whole roof thing. I mean, it's exhilarating, right? And like just the height fit and just man, every moment I'm just like, yo, yo, nah, man, come on, come the fuck on. And then it's just, you ain't holding people like that. You ain't doing that. That's just, no. Your arm is dislocating. This is silly. This is silly. And the amount of time everyone if you think homie takes shots in that first film, yo, my man gets shot so many fucking times. So many. Everyone gets shot so many times. Right? And you're just like, come on. Come on. Yo. There's a bit when two people are standing in front of each other shooting. And I'm just like, firstly, one's meant to be wearing armor. And secondly, it's just like, they're meant to be a good shot. So they're basically in front of each other. And you're saying that a shot ain't that. Yo, there's just so much that's just like, come on, man. I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. But you are taking the Mickey, son. You are taking the Mickey with this shit. You know what I mean? And it obviously, listen, it ends with a setup for a third film, right? Which did then get announced at the recent Netflix event. So it's just like, okay, we're getting more. Now, it's over the top. It feels a little long, and it's real fucking ridiculous, right? More so than the first. So it's not, I don't think it's as good as the first film. You know, I don't think the script is as tight as the first one. You know, just too many random things, right? And people just doing things that make no sense, you know, making no sense, right? There's too much of that shit. But on the flip, it's still better than a lot of action flicks out there, you know? It's still better than a lot of fucking action flicks out there. So there is that, right? If you're a fan of the first film and you just love that ridiculous, you know, nature of things, then you'll probably still dig the second film, you know? You probably will, people, right? It's like you know, think stuff like Triple Frontier, you know, that Netflix joint, or Six Underground, right? Just stuff like that. If that's your bag, then yeah, Extraction 2 will work for you, you know? So yeah, people, it's now live on Netflix. So check it out. And, you know, I'll put the link for the first review on the website as well. So you can go check that if you feel, people. If you feel. Okay. Well, just stay tuned for the next Tyler Rake adventure, it would seem. Extraction 2, baby.